Just tell us quickly, what does Cosatu think of the latest court challenges to etolling here in Gauteng?
Well, we shall follow it with interest, but our opposition to etolling has never been primarily based on whether it's legal or not. Even if it is legal, it doesn't make it any better. Yeah. We think it's a fundamental attack on the living standards of the people of Gauteng. And by the way, we don't just think it's a Gauteng issue, because it's quite clear that e-tolls will be introduced nationally if they work here. And we are opposed in principle to what we regard as the privatization of what ought to be a basic public asset. So that's why we've organized our 3-day rolling mass action, and we're right in the middle of it now. Yeah. Started yesterday and we'll finish tomorrow in Gauteng, and we expect, obviously, e-tolls is a bigger issue there than anywhere else. Yeah. We expect a massive response to the march we've organized in Johannesburg tomorrow.
I wanted to ask you about that, how the campaigns are going, whether these drive slow campaigns, have they had any effect on the psyche of the public?
Definitely. The drive slow campaigns is a new initiative, and obviously it can't involve the same numbers of people as a march, but it is a very effective way of keeping the issue alive, but also indicating to people that they're not alone, that there is a mass campaign. And it certainly is my experience that it's hard to think of a single issue which has attracted more support than our opposition to e-tolls. I often mention that even when you're in a TV studio like this, whereas on any other issue people will be professional and objective, here they're likely to come up to me afterwards and say, look, I'm with you on this, I want to join in.
Absolutely.
Because it does seem so unfair that motorists, most of whom have to use their cars on these roads because it's the only effective way of getting to work and back, who've already paid through their taxes and through the fuel levy, are now being asked to pay a whole lot extra to travel on roads which they've been travelling on free for years.
Absolutely. I want to ask you about politicization, is that a word?
Yes.
Of the e-toll saga. It seems as quite a few political parties jumping on the bandwagon now. What do you make of that?
Well, with the election coming next year, it's not surprising that opposition parties will have seen this as a vote winner. And one of our arguments with our allies, the ANC, is that it's a big vote loser. But we have to say that particularly the Democratic Alliance, we believe, is being a bit hypocritical, because normally they would be in favour of privatisation and the user pays principle. It's consistent with their pro-business, pro-free market policy. Yeah. And so I think it is pure opportunism on their part to join in this campaign. Our campaign is fundamentally based on our socialist principles, that basic social services like public transport, and we would say the same for education and healthcare, should be available to all people regardless of their ability to pay.
The rands and cents, how do you see e-tolls hitting the working class in the pocket?
It'll obviously hit those workers who drive to work and back. And as I say, most of them drive not through choice, but because there is simply no public transport alternative that will get them there and back in time. But we also believe it will have a knock-on effect, because all the trucks that deliver to the supermarkets are going to have to pay these tolls, and inevitably the extra cost is going to be passed on to consumers, many of whom may not even use the road tolls, but will nevertheless indirectly be affected.
South Africans can often be apathetic and a little bit ignorant. Are you happy with the way that e-tolls have been supported by the public over the last 4 years? Or do you believe that the public could have been more passionate if they felt so strongly about this issue?
No, I think the public has been very passionate on this issue, more so than on most issues. And one of the reasons is precisely the lack of any proper consultation. We were basically ambushed. There was some notification, I believe it was hidden on the business pages of one of the Sunday newspapers, but it was only when the tariffs were announced that suddenly it hit people. This is going to cost us a lot of money. And from then onwards, what little public consultation there was a farce, because basically people arrived and were told, well, the decision's already been taken. All we can talk about now is whether the tariff should be 45 or 30 or whatever, which of course is not the issue.
Yeah. Finally, I want to ask you one more question about what other action can we expect from Cosatu in the weeks and months to come against e-tolling in Gauteng?
Well, let's focus first of all on tomorrow and see what the response is. But I can assure you that there will be further action. There's no way we're going to simply abandon this. And of course, one action which is ongoing is our appeal to people not to buy these e-tags.
Yeah.
You're under no legal obligation to make it easier for SANRAL to implement these tolls by buying an e-tag.
Mr. Craven, thank you very much for joining us today.